Okay. Alrighty. Here we go.
Welcome back to MHS, Midnight Horror Stories. I know many of you choose these videos to relax and easily drift off to sleep. Before you slip into your dreams, could you do me a small favor? Leave a quick interaction and let us know where you're watching this and at what time. Now, let's begin tonight's horror stories. There are
Alrighty.
moments in life you wish you could erase from memory. For me, that was the summer night in 2006. 20 years have passed, but I still wake up every night with the image of Mark. Or rather, what was left of him. That year, Mark, my best friend since high school, and Joey, a young colleague, planned a 3-day camping trip to Harold Parker State Forest, Massachusetts. We need to escape the machine noise. It's time to relax after a long period, Mark said as we packed our gear. He was always the most energetic one in the group. We set off on a weekend morning, Mark's pickup truck loaded with tents, sleeping bags, and canned food. Joey sat in the middle, constantly telling spooky stories about the forest. The first 2 days passed peacefully. We fished by the small lake, grilled smoked meat over a campfire, and told old stories. Mark could laugh heartily at Joey's silly jokes. Everything was so peaceful. I felt my body truly relaxed after months. On the second night, I woke up to a sound outside the tent. It sounded like footsteps on dry leaves. I looked around and didn't see Mark, only heard Joey's heavy snoring. I unzipped the tent and poked my head out. The campfire had completely died out, leaving only a few red embers. I turned to wake Joey. "Do you know where Mark went?" Joey rubbed his eyes, looking around. "Maybe he went to pee and will be right back." But 15 minutes passed, and Mark still didn't return. I started to feel uneasy. Mark wasn't one to play these kinds of jokes. We grabbed flashlights and started searching. "Hey, David!" Joey called out from the trail. I ran to him. The flashlight beam shone on a blue t-shirt, Mark's shirt. It was discarded by the side of the trail. "We need to find him quickly." We followed the trail,
Yeah, that's
finding
an
another one of Mark's
understatement.
belongings every few meters. Jeans,
Good
sneakers,
lord.
even the watch he cherished so much. The night wind rustled through the leaves. Joey walked close beside me, his breathing heavy in the cold air. "This isn't normal," Joey whispered. The trail started to narrow, flanked by dense tree trunks. The flashlight beam only illuminated a few meters ahead. I tried to swallow, but my throat was as dry as a desert. My legs felt heavy. "David, I don't think we should continue." But I couldn't stop. Mark was my best friend. I had to find him. Finally, the trail led to a small clearing. I raised my flashlight, the light sweeping from left to right. At first, I only saw dirt and dry leaves. Then the light stopped in the middle of the clearing. My heart stopped for a few seconds. I adjusted the flashlight to see more clearly. A person lay face down on the ground, unclothed. But where the head should be, there was nothing. Joey immediately vomited, and I stood there like a stone statue, unable to believe my eyes. "No way." I screamed. I slowly walked forward, my trembling legs disobeying me. The flashlight in my hand shook. I silently prayed this wasn't Mark. But then I saw the small mole on his left shoulder, the V-shaped scar on his back from when Mark fell off his bike at 12 years old, the silver ring on his thumb. Oh my God, Mark. My stomach clenched. I retched, my body shaking with spasms. Joey sobbed behind me. I stumbled to my feet, my legs weak. Everything around me spun. I grabbed Joey's arm, and we both helped each other out of this horrific clearing. We ran through the forest like two madmen, crashing into tree trunks and stumbling, but not daring to stop. Our gasps echoed in the darkness. Back at the camp, I threw everything I could grab into the truck, mumbling incessantly. Joey sat on the ground, holding his head and crying. I had to pull him into the car and start the engine. The drive back to town was a quick pace, Joey still vomiting uncontrollably. As soon as we were out of the forest, we stopped and called the police. The police quickly arrived, cordoned off the area, and examined the body while we couldn't go back there. I sat at the police station, moving like a robot, constantly answering questions. The police searched the entire forest, but found no sign of Mark's head, no murder weapon, no scattered blood, police department's archives. 20 years have passed. I got married and moved to California, but Mark's death remains a haunting nightmare that never fades. I often dream of him, dream of the flashlight beams shining on that headless neck. I don't know what took Mark, but I know one thing for sure. It wasn't something a human could explain.
Good Lord.
To this day, the police still haven't found them. There are no clues or traces whatsoever. Only what Erica and I witnessed on that terrifying camping night. I haven't had a full night's sleep since then. Every night, I wake up, listening to every sound outside the window. So does Erica. She told me I should write it down. Maybe that would make it less haunting. Or at least someone would know the truth if something happened to us. My name is Richard, 36 years old. 2 weeks ago, Erica and I went camping in San Juan National Forest, Colorado. She planned it 2 months in advance, saying we needed some private time after months of stress. It took us about 4 hours to drive to the campsite. The place was wild, rarely visited, with only endless mountain ranges and pine forests. Erica loved this quiet. She brought her camera and was full of energy. We planned to stay there for 5 nights. The first 2 days went smoothly. We set up our tent near a small stream, cooked and chatted by the campfire. Erica took pictures of the scenery, and I went fishing. In the evening, we lay stargazing and listened to the insects. Everything was as peaceful as Erica had wished. On the 3rd night, I woke up to a strange sound. At first, I thought it was the wind, but then I felt something moving around the tent. Erica was still sound asleep. I tried not to wake her, slowly and gently sitting up. The growling continued, clearer this time. I was imagining it was a bear looking for food. I crawled. At first, I saw nothing, still just the night forest scene. Then I saw it. It was hunched over, hands touching the ground, growling. It was getting closer. After observing for a few more seconds, I was startled to realize it was a man. My heart started pounding.
What the fuck?
I moved my eye closer to the gap, trying to see clearly. The man had long hair and a long beard. His clothes were tattered. He continued to crawl around the campsite, sometimes stopping to lift his head and sniff the air. Suddenly, Erica stirred, calling my name in a sleepy voice. I turned back, signaling her to be quiet. Erica's eyes widened. I pointed towards the tent flap and whispered, "There's someone outside." Erica looked through the gap. When she saw the wild man, she covered her mouth to keep from screaming. We stayed absolutely silent, hoping he would leave. But then other footsteps echoed. Erica and I stared at each other with panicked expressions. 2 more men appeared from the darkness. They carried long pieces of wood, looking like homemade baseball bats. They looked as wild as the first man. One of them pointed towards our tent, saying something. We couldn't hear clearly what they were saying, but the tone sounded very aggressive. Erica squeezed my hand, trembling all over. I felt cold sweat trickling down my back. The 3 men were advancing towards our tent, holding the wooden sticks. I immediately thought of the hunting rifle I had owned for a few months, but I left it at home because Erica always hated guns. If I had brought it, we wouldn't have to be shaking like this now. The first man suddenly stopped, lifting his head as if smelling something. He turned towards the tent, looking straight at where we were hiding. Even in the dark, I felt his eyes piercing through the tent fabric. He let out a growl, then lunged towards us. "Run!" I shouted. I grabbed Erica's hand, ripped open the back of the tent, and bolted out. Screams and the sound of sticks hitting the tent echoed behind us. We ran in the dark, relying only on the faint moonlight to find our way to the truck parked 20 meters away. We opened the car doors. Erica slumped into the passenger seat, panting, then kept turning her head to look back. The 3 men had caught up. Impacts on the car echoed. They yelled, even roared as if they were insane. Erica burst into tears, covering her ears tightly. I floored the gas pedal, and the car sped forward. In the rearview mirror, I saw the three figures still chasing, screaming, throwing sticks, and kicking. It took quite a while before they gave up. We drove for about an hour before we got cell signal. Erica called the police with a trembling voice, recounting the entire incident. They said they would check the area the next morning. We drove straight home, not daring to stop anywhere. When we arrived, I locked the doors and closed all the window blinds. Neither of us could sleep that night. 2 days later, a police officer called to report that they had found our damaged belongings, but still hadn't found the three men with the characteristics we described. Erica and I believe that those three men might be hermits who have been living in the forest for a long time. Worse, they might have harmed other tourists without anyone knowing. We decided we would never camp in deserted places again, always choosing managed and more crowded campsites.
Yeah, that's smart.
There
Jeez.
are stories you never want to tell again. But for the past 3 months, I haven't had a single night of peaceful sleep. I'm writing this story hoping it will make me feel better. Or at least someone will know the truth if something happens to us. It was the end of June. I, Jake, and Emma decided to go camping in the mountains of Pennsylvania to escape the stifling heat of the Texas summer. We drove for 16 hours straight. Jake and I took turns driving, drinking coffee to stay awake. Emma sat in the back, searching for the best spot to pitch our tent. We stopped in a small town to buy groceries and gas. I was choosing bread when I felt someone staring at me. Turning around, I saw an older man at the end of the aisle, holding a beer bottle. I nodded a polite greeting, but he didn't respond, just kept staring.
That's
I quickly
creepy.
grabbed what I needed and went to the checkout counter. We continued our journey. After an hour, we found a clear plot of land near a stream, perfect for camping. We pitched our tent, built a fire, grilled hot dogs, and told jokes until nightfall. That night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to a sound outside the tent, the rustling of dry leaves like someone walking around. I lay still, listening. The footsteps were slow, cautious, circling the campsite. I whispered to wake Jake, and he heard it too. The footsteps stopped after we noticed them. We waited 10 minutes, but heard nothing more. Jake thought it might be a wild animal and went back to sleep. I couldn't sleep anymore. I lay there listening until morning. The next morning, Emma found boot prints with treads around the tent. Someone had walked around the campsite and then returned to the forest. She wanted to leave, but I persuaded her to stay one more night. That afternoon, as we were preparing dinner, a figure slowly approached from the forest. I was surprised to recognize him. It was the man from the grocery store. He held a rifle in his hand and said in a hoarse voice, "Are you camping here?" "Yes." "Is something wrong?" I replied. "This is private land. No camping allowed." We didn't know. "We'll pack up right away," Emma said hastily. The man said nothing more, just stood there watching us. I saw his hand tighten its grip on the rifle. The air grew tense. Then he asked a question that made my blood run cold. "Have you seen anything here? Things you shouldn't have seen?" The question sent a shiver down my spine. We hadn't seen anything but trees and a stream, so what was he talking about? He suddenly advanced, the distance between us now only 20 meters. The gun barrel was no longer pointed at the ground, but directly at us. Jake realized the danger first. He sprang up and retreated towards the car. Emma was still sitting there, her mouth agape in shock. I timed it just right for Jake to get close to the car, then ran as fast as I could to grab Emma's hand and flee. The first gunshot rang out, the bullet hitting a tree trunk next to me, wood splinters flying. Jake
Jesus
opened the car
Christ.
door, and Emma jumped into the back seat. I hadn't gotten into the car yet when I heard a second gunshot. The rear windshield shattered. Jake floored the gas pedal. The car sped towards the trail. Emma screamed that he was running after us. Jake accelerated even more. I looked in the rearview mirror. It wasn't until we reached the bottom of the mountain that we stopped the car. Jake trembled as he pulled out his phone to call the police, Emma sobbed uncontrollably, and we were asked to stay to assist with the investigation. From the hotel, we followed the news about the manhunt. On the first day, they found a makeshift tent about 500 meters from our campsite, hidden deep in the bushes. Inside were weapons, canned food, and a radio. On the second day, the K-9 unit found a natural rock cave that Brennan had turned into his main hideout. Inside the cave were sleeping mats, clothes, and most importantly, a large arsenal with various types of guns and ammunition. The police also found a diary detailing suspicious targets, including descriptions of the three of us. But the most horrifying discovery came on the third day. Not far from the main cave, they found 3 shallow graves. Buried within were the bodies of 3 people, an elderly couple and a young man. According to the forensic report, they had died about 8 to 10 months prior. His name was released the next day, Brennan Hoyt, 52. So the man who had followed us in the grocery store, the man who had shot us with a gun, was Brennan. We believe these people accidentally discovered Brennan's hideout, just like you did. But they weren't as lucky as you, an officer told us when the investigation concluded. Emma was the most severely affected. She couldn't sleep alone for the first 2 months, had to consult a psychiatrist and take anti-anxiety medication. To this day, Emma still can't go camping or be in secluded forested and mountainous areas. Jake became extremely wary of strangers and always carries pepper spray whenever he travels far. He also took self-defense classes and exercises regularly to feel stronger. As for me, I'm haunted by the question, what would have happened if we hadn't escaped? I frequently have nightmares about being followed. I've even witnessed myself being killed in my dreams a few times. We were lucky to survive, and since then, we've learned to value vigilance, courage, and even the most seemingly ordinary moments of peace.
Wow, that was something.
That evening, I returned home with a bouquet of flowers and a cake. It was the anniversary of 12 years of being together and 3 years of marriage for my wife and me. It is truly a joy to be partners with someone who has been with us through the toughest and most challenging times. I walked into the house, and as expected, the aroma of the Memphis-style ribs that I loved most wafted all the way to the entrance. "My love, I'm home. Happy anniversary to us." I walked in and said loudly with excitement, my heart racing with happiness and joy. The cozy kitchen was filled with the smell of food and the lovely items my wife had prepared, but she wasn't here. I placed the cake in the center of the dining table and the bouquet of roses near where my wife would sit. Once I was done, I went around the kitchen to help her a little. "My love, I'll help you decorate the dessert. You can trust my skills." I guessed my wife was changing clothes, putting on makeup, or preparing a gift for me. As I said this, I smiled, delighted by the thought. "My love, you're preparing more thoroughly than usual. You're always beautiful, so let's start the party already. I can't wait any longer." Nearly 20 minutes has passed. The table was ready, but my wife still hadn't appeared. I took off the apron and went to look for her. The bathroom connected to the living room was empty, so I headed up to our bedroom on the second floor. Seeing the bedroom light on, I called out to my wife in a playful tone, "Are you preparing so thoroughly to surprise me after the party?" The door wasn't closed, and I immediately froze when I saw the scene inside the room through the crack in the door. My wife was lying with another man. They seemed to be fast asleep. All the blood and muscles in my body felt frozen, and I stood there staring into the room for a long time. My hands clenched so tightly that I could feel my nails digging into my flesh. Pushed to the depths of disappointment and pain, I couldn't act or react anymore. After a long moment, I turned around and walked away. I drove to a hotel near home, trying to appear as normal as possible until I got into the room. I immediately collapsed, crying in pain, as all the happy and beautiful moments were shattered. That entire night, I sat in a daze in the dark, gnawing at every bit of the pain of betrayal. Morning had come, and I had to go back to confront my wife and clarify everything. Taking a deep breath, I got out of the car. I entered the house, and the familiar space felt cold. The kitchen area was chaotic, with streaks of blood stretching from the countertop down to the floor. On the walls, the appliances, everything was stained with that deadly color. I gasped as I saw body parts like ears, hands, and legs displayed on the dishes from yesterday's feast on the table. The tattoos on the forearm and ankle, the wedding ring, they belonged to my wife. JC, JC. I shouted my wife's name loudly. I could no longer feel the ground beneath my feet. I fell to my knees and then got back up, clutching onto anything within reach. I went up to our bedroom. JC, I'm begging you, please answer me. I cried again, crying out of fear and regret. In the bedroom, everything was a bit chaotic, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. I continued to search. The house that I usually complained was too cramped now felt frighteningly spacious. I walked for a long time down the hallway, continuously calling my wife's name. Finally, I reached the basement, the coldest place in the house. My wife was down there, or rather, what was left of her body. I fell to my knees, screaming in despair. A snickering laugh echoed, accompanied by a voice full of sarcasm and satisfaction. You should have chosen to trust and not walked away.
Wow. Okay.
My name's Mike. I'm a third-year student of Eastern Washington University. My best friend's Jim. We knew one another from the same college class. In the summer of the first year in the university, we planned a trip to the unknown, the places which not many people even knew existed. After a brief survey, we came toward a small village just 2 hours away from our university in Trout Creek, Washington. Surrounding the village was the vast wilderness, stretching its greenery from end to end. The entire population was just about a few hundred. We were excited about the trip, so we dived straight in after 3 days of paperwork. We started at 3 p.m. and arrived to our destination at around 5 p.m. The sunset here was breathtaking, prompting us to breathe in all of that fresh air. The road leading to the village was just a small trail, so we decided to park our ride at the entrance and walked in. We walked in slowly, looking around the place with curious city boy's eyes. After quite a while, we still hadn't spotted any houses. I myself was pretty exhausted, while my companion Jim was still full of energy. I suddenly tripped on a stone and fell. It was quite a huge fall from grace for me, one that Jim made great effort to make fun of. Yes, he did pull me up, but the laughter kinda killed it. Feeling annoyed, I picked up that rock to take a closer look at the perpetrator for my fall. It was a rather rounded, rugged piece of rock, the main reason for my loss of footing. But the more I looked at it, the less of a rock it felt like. Jim, seeing me struggle to pick up the rock, jested. Don't tell me you started having a personal vendetta with this one, Mikey. Jim then plucked out the thick layer of dirt covering the rock, exposing a jaw full of teeth that was clearly of human origin. All the hair on my neck stood straight up. The tense atmosphere quickly enveloped the surrounding, turning the place from a peaceful wilderness into a creepy wild land. Jim immediately tossed the rock away, then laughed to ward off the sunken mood, though it wasn't very effective at all. We shouldn't think much of it, dude. Let's continue on our way. We continued our journey toward the village, sunken in our own thoughts and saying nothing. As we arrived at the village,
The local residents greeted us with warmth and hospitality. It was also dinner time, so we enjoyed the local delicacy. We were glued to the lamb soup, the best local dish. It's cooked in a large earthenware cauldron over firewood for many hours, large enough to require 3 to 4 grown men to carry the pot around. Spices were also made from it, a true homebrew delicacy indeed. I noticed that there were not a lot of children in the village. Most people here were adults and only a few elderly people. Their hospitality and friendliness warmed us up. After a hefty dinner, we were gathering around the bonfire, sitting, dancing, and enjoying beside the flame. We were arranged to have our lodging at the village chief's residence. Our cell phone reception here was pretty poor, so we're not able to use our phones much. After some time talking, we fell asleep. Suddenly, in the middle of the night at around 3 a.m., I was awakened by the sound of children's laughter. They were super loud and seemed like there were a lot of them kids around the outside. Why the heck were them kids playing at this very late hour? I glanced down on my phone, annoyed by this. And where were all the adults letting this happen? I tried to bear with it and waited by slowly for the adults to take the kids home. But after a very long time without any stopping of the commotion, I had enough. So I decided to go outside and tell them kids to leave. But strangely, when I opened up the door outside, there was absolutely no one around, and even though the laughter's still echoing all over the place, I was standing there, dumbfounded by the discovery, staring motionless to the darkness, when Jim's voice jolted me back to reality. "Dude, what are you doing here?" But before I had the chance to tell him, another lower, hoarser voice echoed from behind us. "There's regulation that nobody here opens the front door and leaves the house before 6 a.m. Please close the door and return to your bed, you two." The stern look and tough voice of the village chief were vastly different than the time he greeted us. Jim and I, without any word, quickly returned to our room. Jim immediately fell asleep, while I was not able to sleep the entire night. In my head, the children's laughter and the cold demeanor of the village chief discomforted me. The next morning, the warmth and peace returned to the village. Jim and I followed the locals to the field, watching them grow their crops. There were neat stacks of green vegetables that greatly interested us. Meanwhile, I was planning to ask the village chief personally about what happened last night. The local said that agriculture was the stable food source that maintained the village for many, many years now. One day, however, there was a locust storm that devastated the crops and homes after only one day, right at the moment before everything was ripened enough for harvest. It was a really tough time. The survivors had to gather everything even remotely edible from leaves, barks, and roots. Hunger made them lose control and famine finished the rest. A few children couldn't make it through due to severe malnutrition. So in order to stay alive, the villagers decided to slaughter the last 3 lambs to make it through the famine. That was the origin story of the local delicacy we enjoyed yesterday. At the end of a long, laborious morning, the villagers returned to the community dining hall to have lunch and some well-earned rest. Of course, the lamb soup was among the food served there. I saw that everyone in here seemed to love this signature dish with all their hearts and minds, to the point of slurping until the very last drops. I asked the village chief why there's not any shepherd around here despite the lamb soup. He smiled and said that this soup was very special. It would never run out. Many years had passed since the time there. I had stopped eating by then, staring down on my bowl. Emotions went all over the place for me. I threw a glance towards Jim. He'd finished his bowl in one big gulp. I quickly elbowed him it's time to move on, before promptly packing our things and literally dragging Jim out of there as soon as possible. He was super surprised by my quick action and threw question after question at me. Waiting till we were in the clear and our reception returned, I called the police. I explained to Jim that there wasn't any lamb soup at all. I had glanced down onto the pot, seeing only one broken down skull of the lamb. The rest of them were human skulls, children's skulls to be exact. The rock
the
we
fuck?
stumbled across earlier was of that exact size, and that explained the severe lack of children within the village's vicinity.
Wow, that's something else.
I'm Leon, living in New York. I'm very lucky to have a happy family. My parents have been together for more than 20 years. My brother, Jason, is 10 years older than me. He also has a small, happy family with his wife and daughter. That day was my parents' silver wedding anniversary. The whole family held a cozy party and took a commemorative photo together. My mother wore an old wedding dress. She was really beautiful at the age of 48. My father was also stylish in a white shirt. Parents said sweet words to each other. They thanked each other for their 25 years of companionship. My brother got his camera ready. My niece, Fiona, enjoys running around. My brother looked at Fiona happily and took a few pictures of her. When the whole family arranged a position to take photos, Fiona suddenly started crying and was not cooperating. Fiona is almost 2 years old this year. She walks quite well, but is slow to speak. She cried and then reached towards my mother as if she wanted my mother to hold her. When she sat on my mother's lap, she immediately became happy again. The whole family laughed because of Fiona's cuteness. Everyone looked at the camera and smiled brightly. After taking photos, everyone continued the party and danced together. More than a week after, my brother took the photos to be developed. After dinner, everyone brought out the photos to look at. I was startled when I held the photos in my hand. In the photos my brother took of Fiona, she was chasing a boy. The photo doesn't show his face clearly. Looking at his height, I guess the boy is about 3 years old. I quickly picked up the other photos to look at. In the family photo, that boy appeared again. That boy stood next to my mother, playing with Fiona. So she cried for my mother because she wanted to continue playing with that boy. I was startled again. In all the photos, I was not there. But the strange thing is that my parents did not have any questions or panic reactions when looking at the photos. They smiled and complimented my brother for taking beautiful photos. They didn't even see the other boy like me. Suddenly, my mother was thoughtful and then burst into tears. "I wish there were more Leon and Marcus in the family photo," my mother said with a choked voice. "Leon and Marcus? I'm Leon. I'm here, right? And who is Marcus? Are there any other family members that I don't know about?" The family atmosphere fell silent. No one paid attention to my questions, except for Fiona, who ran to hug me as if to comfort me. I hugged Fiona, but a series of questions appeared in my mind. Looking closely at the family photo, that boy's face is very familiar. Another evening, I was in the bedroom with Fiona, who was very attached to me. We will play together for a while before the baby falls asleep. I stayed and watched Fiona for a while before returning to my room. But that day when I walked out the door, Fiona suddenly woke up. The little girl whined and asked me to stay. I quickly hugged Fiona to comfort her, and in just a moment she smiled. Fiona looked at me intently and she said,
"Friend."
When my sister-in-law heard Fiona crying, she also ran over worriedly. As soon as she entered, she witnessed Fiona's first words. My sister-in-law happily picked up the baby and ran to the room to show it to my brother. The happy laughter of the small family also made me laugh unconsciously. One beautiful morning, my parents wore black clothes and looked sad. My parents told me and my brother's family that they wanted to take us to visit some people. I was quite curious but didn't ask much, but did what my parents said. My family stopped the car in front of the gate of a large cemetery. I went last, following the whole family into the cemetery. My mother sadly knelt and cried at a grave. My father and brother tried to comfort her. Coming closer to look at the tombstone, I was shocked to see that the names printed on the tombstone were Marcus and Leon. Looking at the two small photos on the stele, I was startled to recognize the boy in the family photo. It turned out that boy's name was Marcus. That boy and I only have different eye colors. Everything before my eyes gradually blurred. Echoing in my ears were the sounds of police cars and ambulances, followed by the sound of crying, the sound of my parents calling out Leon and Marcus's names in pain and helplessness. Before my eyes appeared the scene of the bodies of two twin boys covered in blood and open wounds. The two boys lay on top of each other in a pool of blood. A man holding a sharp knife stood looking at the bodies of two boys with wide eyes full of red veins. The tight pain throughout my body pulled me back to the present. My body was covered in scars. They began to bleed and hurt. My mother was still kneeling and crying next to the grave. Fiona walked up, pointed to the picture of me and Marcus on the grave and said,
You.
That was odd.
My name's Brad, and the worst thing that ever happened to me was 10 years ago. At that time, I was 19, you know, that age when I was pretty full of myself and overly confident. I didn't go the usual route of studying. Instead, I jumped straight into work right after high school. My first job was as a cashier at a store that sold toys and event decorations. It was around Halloween, and the weather in Colorado was freezing. The store was packed with decorations in all sorts of strange shapes and colors. Even though I saw them every day, I couldn't help but get startled whenever I glanced up at the display shelves. At 8 p.m., I had plans to meet up with some friends at a bar near the store. After spending over 4 hours enjoying music and drinks, I walked home alone. The alcohol just made me feel warmer, and I was still sober. I took a shortcut home that would save me about 10 minutes. The shortcut was always dark and deserted, no matter where you took it. Mold and the lingering scent of burnt cigarettes. The air was gloomy and cold, and there were occasional eerie noises that would startle even the bravest people. It'd be a lie to say I wasn't scared, but I was pretty confident in my youthful strength at the time. My immature thinking made me believe I could handle it. This wasn't the first time I'd taken a shortcut home. Halfway through the shortcut, I was startled to see a tall, black shadow in the distance. But after a few seconds, I just kept walking at my normal pace. As I got closer, my panic grew because the person had a really unusual face. I couldn't believe how the messy features were arranged on the face, along with the orange skin. After taking a few more steps, I realized that face looked really familiar. Wasn't that the mask on sale at the store where I work? I was so tired that I just ignored him and hurried home.
Hey, can I bum a cigarette off you?
He came up to me and said. It didn't sound like a teenager's voice. I shouldn't have gotten involved with that guy. I didn't smoke, so I shook my head and kept walking. But the guy laughed loudly and followed me, making annoying humming noises and singing some really irritating songs. I turned around and shouted, "Get lost before I hurt you." I thought that would scare him off, but looking back, I really wish I'd known how to stay calm and handle things wisely, like a 29-year-old. When I was 19, he laughed loudly, a joyful laugh that was also full of anger. I could really feel it. He slowly pulled out a small knife with a long blade and a really sharp tip from his pocket.
Let's see if you can back that up.
he growled at me, then burst into a loud, joyful laugh. At that moment, my survival instinct kicked in, and I ran. The guy was really fast, even though he was wearing a long, thick cloak. The crazy laughter and the sound of the knife scraping against the pavement as he ran and dragged it. I ran into a small alley. Even though I was exhausted, I tried to control my breathing as calmly as possible. Of course, I wanted to call the police, but breathing was so hard that using the phone seemed impossible at the time. The quiet night was so still that any movement would risk the monster smelling me and coming to get me. I heard footsteps getting closer and clearer, and it seemed like he knew exactly where I was hiding. The guy seemed to be toying with my endurance, and his laughter was so loud and grating, it felt like it was hurting my eardrums. The footsteps were just a wall away from me. "This is my place, kid. Get lost and laugh while you can." It was the homeless old man. I recognized him because I'd met and talked to him a few times before. The man was still laughing loudly. I looked out to check what was going on. It felt like a scene from a horror movie was playing out right in front of me. The guy laughed maniacally while swinging the knife around wildly. The blade, his hand, the mask, and the road beneath his feet, everything was stained red. The homeless old man fell, and I knew for sure he was dead. My mind realized this was my chance to escape, but my body wouldn't cooperate. I kept running, stumbling, and crawling on the road. I couldn't let myself stop because my life depended on it. Thank God I made it to the nearby police station. I shouted loudly to get the attention of the police inside. Just a few steps from the police station entrance, I felt a knife slash from my shoulder down to my waist. But I didn't stop or turn around. I just shouted even louder. I collapsed to the floor, leaving footprints in crimson liquid that made everyone panic. The man rushed into the police station, his eyes wide and darting around frantically, searching for me. The police hit him with 5 tasers. His hand, still sticky with red liquid, gripped the knife tightly and waved it at me before he finally collapsed. I was rushed to the emergency room and ended up with 30 stitches in my back. The man's identity was quickly revealed. It was Martin. He'd been in and out of prison dozens of times for causing trouble and stealing. In court, he cried and begged for leniency, claiming he was high on drugs at the time. But there's no law that gives leniency to a murderer just because they were high on illegal drugs and lost control. I was also called in multiple times to give a full account of what I saw regarding the death of the homeless old man. He saved my life. The doctors noticed a strong smell of alcohol on my breath when I was taken to the emergency room. So what I said might not have been entirely trustworthy to the police. I narrowly escaped death and learned a lot from that horrific night. I cherish the life I have, stay calm, and carefully think through my words and actions. Especially, I don't stay out past 11 p.m. anymore.
Okay, so we're gonna stop it here. Um, whoa, what the? Um, yep. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave